Welcome to Inside Design with Kandrac and Kole. This podcast is a conversation between two business partners, Joanne Kandrac and Kelly Kole. Join us for a lively conversation about all things interior design, from current projects, trade show experiences, worldwide travel, what's in, what's out, and all the challenges and wins they've had running their successful design business. Whether you're a seasoned interior designer, new to the industry, or a creative enthusiast, you will walk away with insightful information, newfound inspiration, and a smile on your face after listening to these two. And here they are, Joanne and Kelly.
Hey everybody, welcome to Inside Design with Kandrac and Kole. And today we have a special guest, Tobi Fairley from Little Rock, Arkansas. We met Tobi at a Business of Design conference like 14 years ago.
Was it that? I was thinking it might have been even longer.
I think it was 14 years ago. Yeah. And we have stayed in touch since. We have watched each other's businesses grow. And as you will see, her resume is quite large, like a lot of our guests. She is a passionate, educated, and hardworking creative who never stops. Sure. She's been involved in many endeavors over the years, and today we'll be talking to her about the endeavors and how she makes it all happen. You want to read her bio?
Sure. So, Tobi is an award-winning designer and a business consultant with over 23 years of experience helping high-achieving creative professionals take their lives and companies to the next level. And we took advantage of her expertise many years ago in for her mastermind coaching program. And we've talked about it many times on the show and still lean on that lessons and everything we learned. But so she's made her name originally, when we first knew her as an interior designer, and then she morphed into this amazing business coach. But she helps designers, coaches, CEOs, and organizations create more wealth, joy, and impact through her programs. So as the host of another podcast, DesignYou, she delivers life-altering inspiration for creative entrepreneurs mixed with tactical business advice, which we totally love, and unfiltered aha moments on topics most business gurus won't dare to cover, which is why we are friends.
So before we get started, we'd like to talk about today's sponsor, which is the High Point Market Authority. They cover 13 city blocks, over 11.5 million square feet of showrooms, covering every product category. High Point is the home of home furnishings and the one show you can't miss.
Nope.
Every April and October, the future of home is imagined by our industry leaders, thinkers, and innovators, defined by lifestyle trendsetters and product designers, given form by artists, artisans, and manufacturers, and made a part of people's lives by interior designers and retailers. So if you're in the trade, make sure to register and start your plans to attend the spring show this year, which is April 22nd to the 26th. The registration for the Insiders Tour that Kelly and I will be leading with 4 or 5 other different designers is live. So if you're interested, register early because those spots will really fill up.
Yes, they will.
Just visit the High Point Market and register here at highpointmarket.org.
Awesome.
Welcome, Tobi.
Finally, here we are. Had to get through all that first.
Yes. So as I mentioned, you have so many accomplishments. And you've been able to pivot probably more than anybody I know in our business in so many different ways. So just give us a quick description about yourself when it comes to like creativity, because I think you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit, but you also have to be very creative to come up with things.
Thank you so much. I don't know that anybody's ever said that about me, but I'll take that as a wonderful compliment.
Are you serious? Yes.
As far as like pivoting more than that's so funny, but it is really how I think. So, if you look at my strength finders, one of my main strengths is futuristic. And so I'm always looking at what's coming next and what's happening in the industry and where I want to go next. And I think as a creative, we also tend to like to build things. And then once they're kind of up and running, we want to move on to the next thing. So that's probably why I pivot a lot or add things in. I don't always pivot away completely from the thing I was doing. It's usually still there running at some level in the background, but I add new things in for sure. And yeah, it's just really fun and it keeps things exciting. I think when you've been doing something for almost 25 years, 23, 24 years, to keep yourself interested, it's always a good idea to kind of follow your own sort of intuition and what's lighting you up at the moment. And so I definitely do that a lot and add things that are exciting me into the business.
But along with that comes a little bit of risk. Every time you're going to do something new, there's research, there's, sometimes you just jump in. But one of your recent endeavors, which I think is kind of interesting, is you're doing an e-commerce shop and business and a small retail store with your daughter. So tell us about that.
So interesting. I'm kind of building two side gigs right now. They're always not exactly side gigs because they're related to the other things we do. But my daughter is about to be 18. She's heading to college in a few months graduating high school and then heading to college. And she is interested in graphic design, but her real dream is to have like a boutique, an online boutique. She's into fashion and makeup and always has been. She's really creative. And so I was thinking about, I have been for a while, thinking about opening an e-commerce shop because we have product lines, one of which is with Woodbridge that does so well. And we have a few others and we want those product lines online to the consumer because, they're to the trade otherwise. And so when really listening and thinking about Ellison's dream and what she wants, and really wanting to get our products online, we decided to kind of leap into this together. And it was really originally going to just be e-commerce, but a lot of the lines that she's interested in carrying in the future require you to have some sort of a brick and mortar, presentation. So along with another business we'll talk about in a minute, which is short-term rentals that I'm going to do with my mom, and I'll tell you how that evolved. We bought some properties right across the street from my mom's house, which is like about 35 miles from where I live. And it's 2 cottages and an old gas station. And so we didn't know what we were going to do with, I know, isn't that so fun? And so we didn't know what we were going to do with the gas station. And then all of a sudden I was like, wouldn't that be the most adorable little retail shop for us to have a presence to work out of and to do our, our TikToks and videos and it's open enough in the part that used to be like the bays where you would pull a car in that I can have like move things around and teach one of my classes in there. So it's kind of going to be this little multi-purpose retail space in an old vintage gas station, which is going to be so much fun.
That's fun.
That's pretty cool.
Fun. Yeah, it's all about the experience these days, right?
Exactly. So, yeah. And I did retail for years. I did retail from 1999 when I first started my business until I think 2009. So about 10 years. And Ellison was a toddler, and my design business was blowing up, and it was just really hard to keep up with all of it. And so that's when I decided to close the retail store because the design business was thriving. But retail was so different back then. I mean, I think we had like 1 computer for the whole company, maybe 2. Right. There was I was barely starting to blog. There was no Instagram. There was no TikTok. There was no Shopify. Like e-commerce wasn't even a thing really. And so dipping back in this time, speaking of research, Joanne, like it has been really, really fun to research and to explore the possibilities, but it just makes the reach so much more broad and different and accessible to people instead of people having to drive to this tiny little town in Arkansas to buy our products. So yeah, it's going to be a fun process.
Well, the thing I love about this conversation is we talked a lot about this kind of little post-COVID pandemic and how businesses and interior designers, entrepreneurs had to be agile and how they might have to pivot, or they realized that perhaps maybe they didn't have multiple income streams then, and how that they really got in trouble with that. And we also talk a lot about just, when you're a creative or when you're women of our age and you're feeling just tired, or you're you're like, I'm frying out, like, but I still got a lot of kick in me. Like, what can we do to like, and I feel like you're really good at that of really not necessarily reinventing yourself. Cause like you said, you're never straying far from your core, loves and passions, but just, it takes a lot of energy. Like we just had two two other creatives call us and pick our brain yesterday who are trying to figure out how to do European shopping trips and bring the product to designers and how and what that looks like and kind of reinventing that. And they both have really small children, and I'm thinking, wow, girls, like more power to you. Like,
but if you're
amazing.
passionate about something, you will figure out a way to make it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like back in the days when Ellison was a baby is when I started blogging. I mean, a long time ago, like 2008, she was 3. And I would work all day, and I did have a retail store, and I'd work in the store, and my mom would work with me, and then I'd come home at night and start blogging, and I'd blog for hours.
Yes.
And looking back, I don't know how I did that, but it was some of the most fun. It was so fun
it's adrenaline.
and exhausting, right?
I think the adrenaline, when the adrenaline is not there and you're kind of bored, it becomes a task.
Exactly.
Yes.
But if you're jazzed and your adrenaline is going like, oh my God, 4 hours have just gone by because you're in it, you know?
Exactly. I've been saying, and on a lot of my podcast episodes, I've been saying I've never felt so creative in my life. Now, I do have the benefit this time of having an amazing team that I've spent all these years building, and my team's in like the best shape it's ever been in, and people that help me run a lot of things. So that does allow me to step aside and build a new creative thing in a different way. I don't think I could do it like I did when I was in my 20s, now at 51 as of last week.
Yeah.
But you're right. When I get bored, that's when things feel like drudgery and a chore, even if they're not hard.
Yes.
Like just doing design, even though I love design, doing it the same way again for 20 years and not doing something like this, reimagining something, reinventing something, I get so bored. So I absolutely agree with you. It's that burst of creativity and building something that just lights me up for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. So just little side note, is your team virtual or are they with you in Arkansas?
So I have an interior designer and an intern in Arkansas. And then I have 5 other team members that are literally all over the place. And they do everything from they're my COO, I have a fractional CFO. I have 2 coaches that work with me in our DesignYou coaching program and our Millionaire Mentorship program. We have an operations manager. Basically, she was a VA for years and we hired her full time. And then we work with a few other contract people just all over the place, our podcast people, all the different things. But my core team is 6 people besides me. And one of those people plus an intern are here in Little Rock.
I think that's a good conversation because, you know, you are in Little Rock. It's not, you know, a New York or an LA and you're still able to, you know, completely function at a high rate. And I think people need to realize that.
Changed my business when I decided to go virtual, which I did several years before the pandemic, kind of out of necessity because of what you're saying. Like Little Rock is small. The employment pool is small. I just couldn't find the right people. And so when I started working virtually with people, it kind of actually started, one of my team members was going to move away. And I was like, well, let's just try this remote. And it trained me to work. And it's definitely a training. You have to get used to it. But it trained me to work with someone remotely. And now we've been doing that for, I'd say 6 or 7 years. And
once you get in the groove, it's like, our bookkeeper is remote and we don't miss a beat, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels normal, right? And in fact, I kind of like it. I kind of like it because I can be by myself at home most of the time. Then Adrienne comes into the studio, which is attached to my house, a couple of days a week. The other days she works from home, but we do design a couple of days a week. We do other things other days. And so it makes it kind of nice and keeps it interesting. And I can have my quiet days to create and to dream and to do all the things. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you were telling me about the Airbnb rental thing that you're doing with your mom, it was so interesting because High Point Market, along with Jessica Deuce and HBXD Jane Dagme, are having like a design or a rental vacation rental summit, talking all about how to market, how to design, and all that. And I think it's becoming. I think the pandemic started this because people either are working from home and they can go anywhere to work. So they're like, hey, I've wanted to go to Costa Rica for years. Let's go ahead and, work
pick
and
up our laptops and
go. So I think it's really a really cool part of design. So tell us what you're doing.
Yes. So I have coached people on this for a while. You and I, the three of us had a conversation about this several years ago, because a lot of times we just chat with each other, like back and forth about, business ideas.
Throw ideas.
And yes. And y'all were looking at, do you want to work on projects like this? And so I've been coaching people how to do this for years, but these properties came up across the street from my mom, and we had kind of been entertaining the idea. We're probably going to do some in Northwest Arkansas where our university is, but these little properties came up, and my mom didn't want like a convenience store or somebody building, because she's right off the town square in this tiny little cute town. So she was like, I'm going to buy these properties. There's some friends that own it, and we don't know what we'll do with them. And then not long after, we were like, those need to be rentals, because this town is tiny. There's 2 terrible little motels, but there's enough need there. And when you really study this market, the properties that are thriving the most are not in big areas. They're in small communities and medium-sized communities. People that do boutique hospitality experiences and have these great little properties. So we decided that we would start with these properties and then move into some other places in Arkansas. So we're building the brand. It's going to be a sister brand. It's not just under Tobi Fairley Home, because it's mom and I together, which is so fun. She's 74. I'm 51. So cool. Fun. Isn't that so fun? So we're going to do it like we're doing it. We're not going to, we are. We're doing it like in a legit business. We have our operating agreement and our little sister company, and we're building the brand. We're starting on those properties, which is really fun. They're in progress. They're in demolition right now. And actually, I'm going to speak at the conference you spoke about. I've been talking with Jane and Jessica. I'm going to talk about what it feels like to build a hospitality brand, because we're really building it, building it like a real hospitality brand, which is a little bit different, because a lot of the people they're talking to at the conference are designers who are doing this work for other investors. Like they're going in and designing for other people. And so not everybody's going to be the owner. And so it's kind of a different thing to be the owner, the hospitality manager, and the interior designer. There's benefits to both, but that's what I'm going to talk about, of like what all goes into actually basically becoming like a little boutique experience, kind of like a little boutique hotel, right? Yeah.
Well, that's where another income stream comes from. You're still kind of doing your core work, but you're investing in something, and then it's another way of passive income.
Yeah.
So it's a
and
win-win.
the fun thing is if you... Oh, go ahead. I was just going to say, the fun thing about it is if you've built a brand, which I've spent a lot of years building a brand, then you can create a brand experience where people also want to come just because they want to stay in your experience. They love your design. They're like, your rental's better than my home. I want to get away and like come to experience your space. So there's that fun part of it as well.
Yeah. And I think that's a great addition to the summit that is happening in High Point, because we were just talking, we were at lunch and we were talking to each other about just like when we get really tired of the full blown gerbil on a wheel interior design that we're still in the throes of, what will that look like, and how will we maintain our current income stream, and how will we do that? And so we were talking about, the podcast growing. And
this was these are Panera days when these kind of conversations happen.
I think we were chicken salad chick instead.
We were chicken salad chicks, yeah.
But, and we were talking about Airbnbs, because we've stayed in so many, and we've always talked about, vacation rental design. But then we were thinking, well, like what if we just invested in a property and did the design and gave it to somebody to manage, but pulled up that income stream. So we were talking about that too. So that'll be a great addition to that summit.
I will bring you all along the way, because that's one thing about me is I love to be transparent. Like I like to be a guinea pig, and I like to be transparent. I don't like to keep things close to the chest, because if what I learn can help anybody else, I'm definitely going to share it to you, the highs and lows, all of it. So I'll be sharing the process. We'll share and really the construction and the design will be the easy part for designers.
Totally.
It's the making sure we don't go so far out of budget. Like it's got to have a hospitality experience, but you still need an ROI on the property. So you can't be so expensive. But really the whole, I expect the hospitality management piece to be the biggest learning curve. Of the process and that's booking and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yes. Because we know how to market. We're social media, queens. We like you said, the construction interior design, we can do that with our eyes shut, but it's the other stuff. And it's like dealing with, I mean, I can already see it, like dealing with damages to the place or keeping up with the phone calls that might come in.
Well, no matter what endeavor you're going through, there's always going to be the research, and I don't know anything about this. For example, when we were doing the podcast, Phil Palin, you guys would be great for a podcast. Yeah, sounds like a great idea. But wait a minute, what kind of equipment? Like, how do we get on? How do we do all that? So the idea can be there, but you've got to go through. And that's just like, you got to go through that to learn.
But I think the not knowing creates a little fear, which creates a little adrenaline. And that's all part of what keeps you going. Because if you totally knew how to do it backwards and forwards, that would be kind of boring.
Brings me to
I was
your podcast.
Say,
Tobi has the Design Podcast, and one of your 100th episode, actually, I really liked because the topic was, "Are you willing to fail?" And I thought it was a really good one. And so you talk about the thing that holds people back. So tell
I love this. I was going to say the same thing. I was like, this is a perfect segue into this podcast episode that Joanne loves. And I agree. So what you were talking about is like being willing to fail and having that fear and adrenaline and really leaning into it. And that's one of my favorite things to do. But I'll say that that's a practice, really. Like I've had to, become, I guess, resilient to that discomfort that comes with leaning into the fear of doing something new. And it's the main thing that stops so many people. So on that episode in particular, I talk about two kinds of fails, sort of, I call one like the unworthy fail and one the worthy fail. And the unworthy is the quitting ahead of time because you're afraid. And so many people do that. And what it looks like for most designers is perfectionism. Because we've learned, we've even been told, like, if you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. And we don't want to look dumb and we don't want to look silly. And we have this, like, we have the vision of the 10th iteration of the thing. And we don't want anybody to see iteration 1 through 9. We just want to roll out at like iteration 10, looking like we are, masters at everything we do. But it's impossible. You can't, that's not a thing. Like, you have to be seen at version 1 through 9, like failing your way to success, being willing to take feedback, being willing to grow. Like our first podcast episodes, both of us were not as good as our 100th or 200th or whatever. But if you won't do the first one, how do you get to number 200? And so I think that's one of the most important things to really check in. People that are listening to this and they're like, oh, I would love to go for my dreams. I would love to pivot all the time. I'd love to lean into my interests. The thing that's probably holding them back if they're not doing that is this fear, this perfectionism, this fear of failure. And so, and when we say failure, I mean, it's never the ultimate failure that everybody thinks. Like it's never the like going bankrupt on day one. Like, that's like many, many like things down the road if that were to happen. And things like that can happen. But it's being willing to have the discomfort, the small fails, the little iterations, learning, picking it up, tweaking it, and doing the next thing that really matter. And that's the only way you can do this stuff. Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of like the middle school girl who's like in 8th grade and has acne and just doesn't want to go to school because but you know what? Nobody's really noticing you. I mean,
so
it's so close.
Themselves.
It's so close to you. Yeah. But everybody else is busy doing their thing. So don't worry about anybody else. They're doing their thing. So.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, and fail. I mean, back in the day, I could still fail when no one was looking. Now that I have, and like y'all have a lot of followers and listeners, then I fail just in wide open, but I'm used to it now. So like get used to it when not that many people are following you, your mom, your sister, a few friends, if you haven't built that audience. And then by the time you have people really watching, you're kind of used to it. You're like, oh my God, like, it never fails. Like I'm going to teach a webinar and all our we have 10 technical difficulties. And I just roll with it because I'm like, y'all, when you teach your webinar, you're going to have this too. So let's just do this. Let's fail together. And you do get used to it. But you're right, Kelly, it is once you build up that kind of resilience or even an affinity to failing your way to success, it's exciting. Like there's always a risk. You're like, well, we'll see. This could go either way. But I always have a contingency plan, because just like with an Airbnb, if you build one in a town or an area and it's not thriving, then sell it and do something different. And it doesn't even mean that you're not meant to be in short-term rentals. It just might mean that this particular property or location wasn't right. So I'm always willing to test things, try things, learn from them, close them, shift them, move them, tweak them. I always have
just
plan.
Take action. Like if you don't do, you just have to do something. And
I
then,
remember Joanne and I talked about this long ago. This is something that you told us in our mastermind coaching program that we joined you for. And you said, push your design fees until you lose a client that you really wanted. And we did that. And we lost a client that we really wanted. And it was such a bummer. But it was then that we found kind of what that tipping point, what that push was for those design fees. And I'll never forget, we were getting prepared for this presentation, and we're like, let's do it. We're just going to try it. Like, what the hell? I mean, we're busy. So if we lose this client, it's going to suck, but let's just see if we can get away with it. And they didn't take it. But the next client we pushed, and we just came down a smidge. So we kind of just testing the tolerance of our audience and our market. And they signed on the bottom line without a hesitation. And so, if we hadn't have just jumped in and we were so nervous, but it worked out. And the one we lost, whatever, was at the end of the world. No, but it was a great
and it was the confidence. It gave us the confidence after that one to say, we can do this. We can get away with it.
Yeah.
And it made you believe in yourself and believe you were worth it. And that's one of the things about failing your way to success. I see so many people afraid to repel anyone. So they want to price their services or do their design work in a way that's safe, that's going to make everybody say yes to them. And that is just the recipe for burnout, because you're going to have too much work. You're not going to be charging what you need to run your business. And that's why we have to be willing to. I love that story. Thank you for reminding me of that. But you two were the ones who were brave enough to do it. I mean, I say a lot of things, but a lot of people don't try it and don't do it.
Well, we've talked about this before. Like we love masterminds. We love things like that. And we go to so many events. But if you don't put into practice what you've learned, why are you even going? You may even just get a small nugget of something, but you have to do it, or you're wasting your time and your money. You're going there to learn something. So, take it. How are we doing on time?
Totally.
We're getting to the end. I can't even believe it.
Okay.
So Tobi, tell people how they can find you and learn more about all the stuff you're doing.
Okay, so for sure, Instagram is always a great place to find me. And you can find, if you go to the link in bio on our Instagram, you can find all of our things, our coaching programs, anything that we're doing. And when it's up and running, we will have it up when the e-commerce is up, which will be hopefully around the 1st to mid-April when our first version of it launches. So we're pretty close. So I'm not sure when this is going live. I think this is going live maybe in February or so. So like 6 or 8 weeks after that. But it'll all be on our site.
At Tobi Fairley.
Yeah, at Tobi Fairley. And then I'm having fun with TikTok. So look for me on TikTok too, because that's my new place to grow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at Tobi Fairley, and then tobifairley.com for anything on the website.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I love your new website. It's
very fun.
So fun and colorful.
Yes.
And this is really, the new website really focuses on the coaching programs. And now we're rebuilding the design piece of it, because we're really ramping that up again. So those of you who are like, well, there's not much design on here, just wait, because that's going to be ramped up too. So everything about coaching is all new and ready to go. You can find a little bit about design, but we're going to have a whole new look for our design business as well coming soon. So
that's cool.
Just working on all kinds of things.
That's so good. Well, before we get to our fun quotes that everybody loves, I want to just reiterate, High Point Market April registration is open now. And like Joanne said, we are inside tour guides again. This is a highly coveted event. It's free for people that have never been to High Point or haven't been in a long time, 4 or 5 years. I think it has to be.
Or maybe 3 or 4 markets even.
Yeah. And so if you're intimidated by High Point, but you want somebody to hold your hand and show you the ropes, that's us. So go on and register. You have to request our group because it's going to fill up super fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were recently with one of our coaches, and we were talking about, what were we talking about? Catches on the pot. Anyway, we realized that we never promote ourselves on our podcast.
We never do.
And so everybody, listen to me. After you go to Tobi's or before you go to Tobi's, go to Kandrac-Kole.com. Duh. And look at all that we do and all that we are. I mean, like, hi. We're not just podcasters.
Don't you love that? It's so easy to forget.
Where's the catch? We don't have one.
Yeah. What's your call to action? Don't have one. Okay. Well, there's your call to action. Check us out.
So pretty. It looks great.
Thank you. The quotes, they're both kind of, I like the funny one. I'll do that one.
Go for it.
So, should I spend 2 seconds clicking unsubscribe or 1 second deleting an email from this company every single day for the rest of my life? And that stash bam again is so true. I cannot tell you how many times I'm clicking. And why it'll take just a few more seconds to just unsubscribe.
I am that person that unsubscribes constantly, and I don't think it's even helping me.
Sometimes the unsubscribe, you got to really try to find it.
Oh,
it's
they're very sneaky.
Smallest print. They can be very sneaky.
All right. Here is your series quote for the day. Your home is an extension of your energy field. Oh, that is so true. This is why practices like cleaning your home, rearranging furniture, organizing your closet, and getting rid of objects that are cluttering your space can have a profound impact on your own mind, body, and spirit. And that's from Miriam Hasna.
Is that not the...
That is my life in a nutshell.
Yeah.
That is so true. I can't even preach that. Your home is an extension of your energy field. Like, I'm sure, Tobi, you completely agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yes.
So, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks so much, Tobi, for joining us. I mean, we could have gone on and on.
For sure.
So be sure to check out what she's got going on. And then we want to thank High Point Market for sponsoring us. And thank you all for listening.
Yep. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Join Joanne and Kelly for a new episode every other Friday as they continue to explore the nuances of the interior design business with the goal of informing, inspiring, and entertaining their listeners. See their work at Kandrac-Kole.com and engage with them on Facebook and Instagram at Kandrac Kole.